It all started 300 years ago with the discovery of the Black Marker, an alien artifact found under the old Gulf of Mexico on Earth. It seemed to hold the promise of limitless energy until it produced dementia, insanity, and a twisted life after death known as necromorphs. The details of the original Black Marker disaster were buried in cover-ups and conspiracies, but not before an entire religion could be launched in the name of one of its researchers, Michael Altman. His questionable death turned him into a martyr, and unitology was born. To this day, it thrives, a secretive organization that believes the markers are divine, and their plan for us, a glorious unity of mind, body, and spirit. Generations after the Black Marker disaster, mankind found himself going extinct from lack of resources.
Ah yes, the apocalypse. The ever-present threat of extinction that, while absolutely terrifying, also has a strangely appealing aspect, where as the social constructs of civilization crumble around you, the chaos gives way to a kind of freedom that you've never experienced before, where you can go anywhere and do anything as the world around you breathes its last. This is kind of what we see happening in Dead Space 3 as the Unitologists have overthrown the Earth Gov and start to liberate the markers to bring about convergence, their version of the eternal paradise that follows such an apocalypse. So when EarthGov is facing a brutal coup by the Unitologists, Isaac avoids paying his rent, disrupts the flow of traffic, hijacks a train, and flies out to an unknown set of coordinates out in deep space, all without having to worry about due process. But it's not just the Unitologists themselves that caused this to happen. Rather, in this universe, we get to see a very bleak future of humanity, where due to resource depletion and a massive industrial monster of a civilization with an endless demand for more stuff, the human race has been pushed to the brink of destruction, not at the hands of nature, but by our own overconsumption of natural resources. But while humanity's situation certainly looks dire, just how bad is this problem and what's really causing this supposed extinction? Why are we dying out when we have access to near infinite resources in the form of free-floating asteroids and planets, and we have the technology to go out and harvest them? The short answer is, we're not. Hey guys, this is Ray here with GFC Talks. First off, a very happy new year to everyone, and I hope this year will be a great one despite all the problems that are going on in the world right now. So in today's episode, we'll be taking a look at the extreme situation that humanity finds itself in during the 26th century. In particular, the resource crisis and why it may just be a facade created by the markers. Now bear in mind that as this is a fan theory and not part of the official canon, it may be subject to change in the future, perhaps if we ever get a Dead Space 4. Also be sure to watch the video till the end so that the theory makes sense. So without any further ado, let's dive right into it. Now, while it may be true that there is a resource crisis of epic proportions ongoing during the events of Dead Space 3, as it's mentioned quite a few times throughout the series about how mankind is on the verge of extinction, and there is a lot of Unitologist propaganda that the Earth Gov isn't doing anything about it, it's actually kind of just that. Mass propaganda and mass hysteria. For one thing, humanity has multiple colonies in space that are mostly self-sufficient. This is supported by several text and audio logs found in Dead Space 3. There is also a looping presentation made by Serrano about how Tau Volantis was discovered in another arm of the galaxy by triangulating the marker signal. Obviously, this means that humans have expanded over at least many hundreds of light years of interstellar space, if not more. And while it's true that the sovereign colonies have disbanded a long time ago, humanity still maintains an established presence across multiple star systems in the form of mining colonies, and possibly even independent settlements away from Earth. So why then is humanity supposedly dying? This is in large part due to the marker epidemic that's plaguing humanity in the 26th century. Shocking, I know, but hear me out. While the markers have only been discovered by humanity a couple of centuries ago, it's been theorized within the game that the black marker has been influencing human evolution since the very beginning of our species, guiding us down the path to intelligence and the eventual rise of civilization itself. And the markers are alien technology that's not very well understood even after 2 centuries of research and development following its initial discovery. What we do know is that the markers are able to interact with and influence biological systems in different ways. They do this by emitting a strange signal that affects biological matter. Living things have many psychological effects depending on how smart they are, and dead tissue is reanimated and reconfigured into new forms. The smarter individuals also see and hear equations, patterns, and blueprints that help them to create new markers, and the new markers then expand the signal further, strengthening and extending the influence of the markers even further and helping the alien technology spread to other worlds. But the markers may also be having other secondary effects that humans haven't discovered yet. While the marker's effects on individuals is well documented in many different experiments, how it affects us on a species-wide level is not well understood, and all humans are under this alien influence as the marker signal is transmitted across the vast regions of space, and for all we know, maybe even across the whole galaxy. So there's no large enough sample size of humans that have never been in the presence of a marker signal to see how they develop. Even those humans that appear immune to the signal's psychological effects might still be indirectly affected by it in other ways. And if it's true that the markers have indeed been influencing human evolution on Earth, then every single human being that has lived on Earth has been under the marker influence in one form or another. As humanity evolved out of the primordial muck, the markers kept driving us to become more intelligent with time, and once we were effectively able to colonize space, the original marker allowed itself to be discovered on Earth and started a new cycle of replication where it uses humans to build copies of itself and spread them across space. But in that whole process, what if it's actually limiting human intelligence in certain ways and only allowing us to develop along very specific paths of technology so that we can effectively fight back once it's ready to begin convergence? This is similar to what the Reapers did in Mass Effect, leaving behind dormant mass relays for other civilizations to find, so they'll only develop along the lines that the Reapers want. In this case, the markers could have enabled humans to build FTL starships, but prevented us from developing efficient nuclear fusion and super-intelligent AI. But how does this relate to the resource crisis? Well, the marker could be trying to alter our intelligence to be unable to recognize and implement obvious solutions, or perhaps they even cause us to see problems where there are none, a sort of a species-wide shared hallucination, so to speak. Because once you're in space and you're able to settle other worlds, resource scarcity is hardly an issue. In fact, the core motivation for any civilization to venture out into deep space is to be able to gather resources and ensure their survival in the long term. A single metallic asteroid could meet the industrial demands for decades, if not more, depending on your population size and what the demand is for. And in the 26th century, humans seem to be cracking entire planets open and mining quadrillions of tons worth of resources on a regular basis. And yet still somehow they don't have enough to survive for long. Seems a bit far-fetched, doesn't it? One possibility is that the marker affects people with highly competitive instincts to become more greedy. This could be why you see billionaires and people in positions of power are often competing with each other and they always seem to be getting richer. This in turn would create massive wealth imbalances where a handful of individuals have too much wealth and power, leading to corrupt and totalitarian systems of government like EarthGov that through poor decision making and self-serving interests ensure their own downfall. Seriously, a fanatical alien worshipping cult took down a planetary government that likely controlled more than a dozen colonies and ruled majority of the population. Another possibility is that perhaps the resource scarcity isn't even a real problem, and there's more than enough to go around, but the collective human consciousness is led to believe that they are dying due to a problem that doesn't really exist. A facade created by the marker to have the entire population incapacitated by working itself into a species-wide epidemic of depression, so that when convergence finally begins, there is little to no resistance left. This is seen in the way that humans have progressed so far. Again, we seem to have developed starships capable of interstellar travel and have learned to control gravity itself, and yet at the same time there's also a strange absence of technologies like AIs and fusion reactors, which are rarely seen if at all. The only AI we see in any of the main games is Anti on Titan Station, and that is an older AI. You'd think there'd be a lot more of these around, but there's not. It could be that the markers are placing mental blocks on humans to be unable to create powerful AIs, as these could then be used against the markers. Same thing with nuclear fusion. If you have the ability to create artificial stars, then energy generation is no longer a problem. In both of these cases, the marker appears as a perfect solution by seemingly giving off unlimited energy and a promise of a perfect state of existence. However, since Isaac has destroyed two markers already and humans have now developed the technology to rip entire planets apart, it's also possible that humans have started to slowly become more resistant towards the marker signal. Ellie, in fact, seems to be completely immune to the psychological effects of the signal, and there could be others with such an immunity, and as a result, the markers could even be seeing humanity as a threat of sorts that needs to be removed by any means necessary. Which could be why the Brethren Moons attacked the Earth directly at the end instead of waiting for another convergence event to create a new Brethren Moon. But that's all I've got for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think, and if you like this video, please hit that subscribe button to support my channel and click the bell icon so you get notified about new videos. See you in the next one.